So Alabama was snubbed by the committee. What is this all going to mean here in the short and long term? I'm starting over. Well, I don't know. Is this live? Did we go live or am I live? Are we live?
You're live. You are looking live.
All right, so I'm just going to hit the thing again then. I'm not going to start over. What am I doing?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, HSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll tell you about FanDuel here in just a little bit. Also going to tell you about Omaha Steaks along with FanDuel because I love both them things, I promise you. Jimmy, I just did a whole podcast by myself while the show was going on. And I did it, and I just, my initial reaction, Brett McMurphy sort of leaked the news that SMU was going to get in. So, any of my enthusiasm was tempered. But I'll say this, that I think you and I share the same opinion. Alabama wasn't necessarily robbed. I do say snubbed. I think those are two different things. And I think that they picked the worst team that they could pick of all the available teams for that slot. If I were ranking those teams, SMU would be my last place team. And they also sent out a horrible message. Don't schedule anybody who's any good if you don't have to, especially if you're in the SEC and you already have a bunch of SEC teams that are on your docket. Because, see, the SEC carries so much weight that Texas really isn't penalized. Texas has one of the worst SEC schedules I've seen in years. The only team they had to play was Georgia, and they couldn't do it twice. So my point is, don't ever schedule Wisconsin again. Don't ever schedule Ohio State. Cancel all of them immediately. And I'm a schedule guy. I want power schedules. I love what Nate Oates is doing. I can live with losing to Oregon and losing at Purdue. I can live as long as it teaches us to go win at North Carolina, teaches us to win against Houston in basketball. And so I'd be all for that too if they held scheduling in the same regard, but they don't. Clearly they don't. SMU played Little Sisters of the Poor. They played a 2A football schedule here in the state of Alabama, and they get all the rewards. And the only two teams they played all year with a pulse, they couldn't beat them. So I don't see the benefit to playing a tough team on your schedule ever again. And next year, if I'm Greg Byrne, I immediately call Florida State and say, sorry, not sorry. We're going to get out of this contract. Oh, it's going to cost us $300,000. No problem. We'll call Mercer back. We'll pay them $1 million to come here, and then we'll make more money. Same thing with Wisconsin. Sorry, y'all don't get to come back. Sorry, we're going to buy you out of that. And we're going to call Mercer again. We're going to play Mercer 3 times next year. And they're going to get rich, and we're going to get rich. And then we don't have to worry about injuries and bruises. Nicole Auerbach, in her infinite wisdom, said something about how, I don't understand why Alabama fans are so mad about the non-con. They didn't lose any of those. It's all part of the scheduling. Do you see that when you play Florida State and Wisconsin, the nicks and the bruises from playing Power 4 teams add up throughout the year? When you're Texas and you play a bunch of nobodies, and when you're especially SMU and you play a bunch of nobodies, you don't have to worry about that quite as much. It's a violent sport all the time, every time, but it's much more violent yesterday. And if you watch Georgia take on Texas and you think that's the same category of sport as what you saw with Clemson and SMU, you're out your mind.
Yeah, I don't think that so much about what happened with the committee really had a lot to do with this year. To me, it's more about the message that was sent by the committee. And the message is we care more about wins than we do about who those wins are against. We want wins. That's what impresses us. That's what put SMU in. They had wins. Now, they obviously pay some attention to strength of schedule because Army wasn't in the discussion today. So they clearly know about strength of schedule, or Army, who actually won their conference, would be a thing, and they're not. So they do glance at strength of schedule, but they don't put full weight behind it, and that's why SMU's in, and that's why I agree with Luke that I think there's going to be a couple of results that come from this decision. And one is going to be teams like Alabama going, you know what? We don't seem to benefit from strength of schedule here. So why on earth would we load our non-conference with potential losable games? Keep in mind, Alabama didn't lose their non-conference games this year. SMU's non-conference games weren't actually terrible on the surface, although they just ended up not being good teams. But I do think Alabama is very likely. I don't know that they will cancel Florida State and Wisconsin because it's so soon. It's very difficult, I think, to get a new opponent when the games are just a few months away. So, but I do think the future schedule that includes the Notre Dame and Ohio State, I think those are very possibly going to go away. And it won't just be Alabama, Luke. It will be others. Think of this. Clemson got in, but you know why they almost didn't get in? Because they voluntarily added Georgia and South Carolina to their schedule. Imagine if those two games had been against Citadel and Mercer, then Clemson wouldn't have had to breathe so heavy and pull out the last game with a 57-yard field goal or something, because they would have been in. And I think all these teams are going to start doing that. And I fear the message that the committee sent was, we care about wins, and that's ultimately how you're going to get in this thing. Mute.
I can't believe there aren't more Miami fans, South Carolina fans, Ole Miss fans more upset about SMU. Now, because I guess the reason is because they already said the president of SMU isn't in, Alabama is. But now think about it this way. Take Alabama out of it. If you're an Alabama fan, if you're an Ole Miss fan, South Carolina fan, Miami fan, you should be like, what in the world?
Yes.
Hey, by the way, I would like to know, Tyler Coggins, what group of savages do you root for? You say we can't make a 12-team playoff. We made about all the 14 playoffs. We should have been in this one. And again, it was our fault. Jimmy and I have said this over and over and over again. It's our fault. We lost 3 games and we lost 2 to teams we definitely had no business losing to, 100%. We've also said, and again, I guess I need to do this every podcast because there are people on here who only see us every now and again. Justin Clayton says, win your games. Don't worry, Justin. We're going to start winning a lot more because we're going to get rid of the good games that are fun to watch. We're going to schedule more like Auburn does. We're going to pick up California. We're going to pick up Baylor. We're going to pick up some of those fun teams. You could have Ohio State.
I wouldn't even do that.
Notre Dame.
I wouldn't even play California and Baylor.
No. I'm using that just to insult him.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to do that.
I'm just insulting him with that because I had Auburn fans too. I love that we're doing our schedule. Your schedule stinks. You picked up Baylor and California, and you can't beat them. That's what's funny.
Yeah,
but
I would cancel like Ohio State and replace them seriously with someone like Louisiana Monroe.
And listen to me, Justin. Again, Justin just got in on this apparently, and Justin's a friend of mine. He's a smart dude, but he says it wasn't the out-of-conference games you lost. That is very correct. But when you have to prepare for more Power 5 teams, or Power 4 teams, I should say, that's where the more nicks and the more bruises come in.
We can't not schedule SEC teams. That comes from the league office.
Correct.
But we can have control over the non-conference, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to exercise their control that they have over the non-conference games. And the whole point isn't Alabama didn't get in because of non-conference games. The whole point is there is a new landscape out there, a new set of rules. And the new set of rules include we care about wins. We don't care about interesting intersectional games. So there's no benefit to Alabama playing a road game at Ohio State where you lose all that income to the city of Tuscaloosa by not having a home game. There's no benefit. Alabama used to believe that they benefited from playing those games. The benefit of that is gone because, again, they care about the wins. So, again, Justin makes a good point in the sense that, hey, had Alabama played Mercer 4 times, you still wouldn't have been in because you lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt.
No, I disagree with that. I disagree with that because I disagree with that in the sense that we wouldn't have had to prepare. I'll tell you something. The team that fought us even harder than Wisconsin was South Florida. I don't want to play South Florida anymore. I want to, if it's non-conference, I want the easiest non-con you can give me. I have gone 180 degrees on this, or as my old golf buddy used to say, 190 degrees on this. I've gone straight up from it and a little bit wonky. Now, what I'm saying is, if the message is we don't care about your schedule as long as you just beat who's in front of you. Okay, we can live by that. We can. But what you're going to get, CBS, ABC, ESPN, casual college football watcher, what you're going to get while y'all been complaining and moaning and bitching about Mercers, you're about to get so many Mercers you don't know what to do. You're about to get Mercers and La Monroes out the yin yang. And again, you sent the message saying this is okay. And
yes. I do believe that's going to be one of the fallouts here, is that. And a second fallout, which is even bigger, and I believe this is coming, there will be increased talk that Greg Sankey is going to pull the SEC out of this format and future formats and simply have an agreement with the Big Ten, who they've already kind of formed, for lack of a better term, an alliance. And I think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have more urgent discussions about doing their own thing and having their own postseason.
And I hope they do it next year. And then SMU can schedule whoever they want to, and so can Boise State, and they can have a conference championship. And let's just stack those two together and see who watches. Now, Justin Clayton says, I love you guys. Uncontrollably biased. FSU had a gripe. Auburn had a gripe. Numbers 8 down don't have a gripe. That's total BS, because you know why? And we told you this. We told you this on this podcast, that if you make it where you have more teams that can get in, those teams have a gripe on the backside, because we were grouped in with a bad SMU team who's beaten nobody, with a South Carolina team we've beaten, with a Missouri team we've beaten, with an Ole Miss team that also played nobody in the non-con and really didn't have the toughest SEC schedule either. We didn't play them head-to-head. And Miami, who had a pretty easy road to hoe.
Justin may be surprised, but there's going to be an annual gripe.
Just 100%.
There's an annual gripe of who doesn't get in the 68-team NCAA basketball tournament. There's at least a gripe. Yeah, it only lasts a few days, and this is only going to last a few days. But there's going to be an annual gripe of whoever gets left out is going to complain every year and say that it's not fair and they got robbed. And again, I'm not saying that Alabama got robbed by any means. I want to make it completely clear.
Yeah,
Alabama's not in because Alabama lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. That's why they're not in. That's why they're not in. But you still have to hear what the committee is saying and game plan going forward. You would be stupid not to understand what the rules are. And the rules right now apparently say rack up as much wins as you can. And Alabama needs to respond accordingly to this new set of rules. And I think that's ultimately what's going to happen.
Rusty Jones says, homie on the left, I assume it's his left, or maybe both our lefts. I don't know how this operates. About to have aneurysm, he has to mean me, because I'm much more fired up about this than you. But look, I'm always on the verge of having an aneurysm. And I want it to be clear, Rusty, great name, by the way. Nobody calls anybody Rusty anymore. I want to be clear about this. We fully embrace the fact that Alabama pooted this thing away, okay? We shouldn't be in this discussion. Now, having said that, let's tend like Alabama wasn't in this discussion. Let's tend like Alabama was in there. And let's say this came down to Ole Miss, Florida State, Miami, and SMU without Alabama in it, and Alabama was in. I'd feel the same way. I'd feel like SMU's getting in is taking the worst of the available teams. I feel like SMU is clearly the worst of the teams. They bring the least to the table. The only thing they bring to the table is that they have 11 wins, and their 11 wins are over a bunch of junk. Nothing. They didn't beat the good teams in the ACC.
The irony is the losses that the SMU crowd's like, yeah, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Vanderbilt and Oklahoma would have been two of easily the best teams y'all beat. Oklahoma would have been like your second or third best win. I mean, in terms of who are the really good teams, their best wins were over Louisville and Duke. Are they really better than Oklahoma? And I know you'll say, yeah, they won more games, but they didn't play Oklahoma's schedule. I mean, I don't think that Louisville and Duke are better than Oklahoma.
Got to get the break, but I'm going to say this from Sheila K. And this is why it's so funny when other fans come on podcast and they don't know what they're talking about. Sheila, I'm sure you're brilliant and beautiful. I'm sure you are. But this was not a very good comment. She said, I guess if Bama losing to Tennessee and they suck, then Bama has no good wins. We beat Georgia, who's the number 2 seed in this thing. We beat South Carolina, who is also in the mix to get that last seed. And we beat Missouri, who's also ranked. So no, Sheila, that was not a good comment.
We've never said Tennessee isn't good.
We said they're good, and we said they deserve it.
I think they're one of the more underrated teams in this tournament.
Sure.
I do think they got a tough draw. They got the toughest bad luck draw, I think, in the tournament by having to go to Columbus instead of it being the other way around. But to me, it's by far the most compelling first round game is Tennessee, Ohio State. That's the good one. I'm watching that. That's good. The other 3 first round games, there will probably be the favored team will probably be favored by double digit in all of those games.
Well, if you want to just sit around and have a steak and eat your worries away, which is something I do about every day. I've gained about 20 pounds for no apparent reason. Well, you want to use Omaha Steak. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and the taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they constantly deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect steak with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase, it might apply, but it's totally worth it. Tell you something, my father sends my children Omaha Steaks all the time, and they love them. Now,
very, very good. I'm a big fan.
They're good stuff.
I've eaten them, sent them as gifts. I've eaten it. Good stuff, especially this time of the year.
Fata 007 says, y'all keep saying SMU. What about Indiana? Look, we railed on Indiana before. We only do this on SMU now because that's what it came down to. I would blow up this whole system and say, Indiana, if you don't go schedule somebody with a pull, Indiana played Charlotte and 2 airports. That's what they played. And they beat them, and congratulations. And somebody said, wasn't their schedule ranked 106 or 103? It was until they played Indiana and Ohio State. And then only by playing Ohio State, it jumped up to 103. But again, I think we need to take scheduling metrics out of this completely henceforth. Okay, let's do that. Let's just get them out. I'm a college football fan. Man, you're telling me I don't want to see Alabama, Notre Dame in the regular season, or Georgia, Clemson, or Ohio State and LSU? I want to see those games, right? I do. But the committee told us today you're penalized for. Play junk. Play junk. And the TVs are going to hate it, and everything is going to get expedited, just like you said, Jimmy. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to look at each other and go, wait a minute. The SEC is leaving 3 teams that we 100% believe, and I'd be willing to bet most everybody believes are better than SMU and Clemson, by the way. We're leaving 3 teams home so that ACC can get 2 teams in, and their 2 teams that are in are 12 and 11.
Yeah. I also find this curious. I mean, this is my number one thing that the AP poll, 60 media, that they had Alabama ahead of SMU. The coaches poll had Alabama ahead of SMU. The committee did not. I don't know what to I don't know what to make of that. But again, I'm already looking forward to. There's going to be a bowl announcement later today that Alabama will be playing, probably in the Citrus Bowl, possibly in the ReliaQuest Bowl. So either Orlando or Tampa against a Big Ten team, maybe Illinois, maybe Michigan. We'll find out. I think it's going to be Illinois in the Citrus Bowl, but it may be Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl. But I'm looking forward to watching this team play again. And then, of course, we have a lot of announcements this week. There will be this week the amount of news. Tune in. The amount of news this week is going to be huge, with Alabama having their opt-outs, players going pro, the portal opens officially tomorrow. Expecting a lot of, not a lot, but a few Alabama players to go in addition to Jaleel Hurley and Kobe Prentice, who've already entered or have already stated their intention to enter. So it'll be a huge news week, and then Alabama getting ready to play another game, by the way, which will be in 23 days. 23 days. Alabama will play.
Here's another example.
Michigan.
Here's another example of a guy who just goes on comes to other people's podcasts and doesn't know what he's talking about. He says, "Win your games and stop crying. No 3-loss teams." There's a 3-loss team in the tournament right now. It's Clemson. They had 3 losses, and they had an opportunity to get in, and they did. I don't know how much clearer that can be, Lavish Patch Kid. What a terrible name.
And what if all the pro SMU, hey, Alabama lost 3 games, they don't need to be in because, SMU and Indiana deserve to be in because they won their games, Alabama. Why aren't y'all arguing for Army? Why aren't y'all arguing for Army? Army won every time but once and won their league, beating a top 25 team at the end in Tulane. Why aren't y'all arguing for Army? I don't know. Curious because y'all seem to not care about strength of schedule. Y'all just care about wins. So why aren't y'all arguing for Army?
And I go back to some people say, well, Clemson won their conference. That should also tell you something. A team that lost to 2 SEC teams and Louisville at home won their conference, which tells me their conference sucks, which tells me that conference shouldn't get 2 conference teams in. And it also doesn't refute the fact that what the poster said was no 3-loss teams in the tournament. There's one.
A 3-loss team in the tournament. And I would argue that, hey, if this is really about the 12 best teams, who are the 12 best teams, I would include South Carolina and Ole Miss. Also, 2 other 3-loss teams. I think they're among the 12 best, like Alabama. That's just my opinion. But hey, I moved on. Ready for Illinois.
Well, and again, all these people stop crying or keep crying. Your tears are delicious. They're not crying. We have said this over and over and over again. Bama did do this to themselves. We admit that. But we're not asking for Alabama to get in over Ohio State or Tennessee or to get in over Penn State or to get in over Arizona State. We're asking them, okay, you have 2 routes to go here, and these routes do suck. I think it should also be known that the 2 routes suck. Okay, either they say, yeah, we're kind of diminishing college conference championship games, or we're diminishing tough schedules. They chose to diminish tough schedules. Okay. That it didn't go our way, and it does suck. We're not crying about it. Jimmy and I said last night we were very worried about it, and we probably won't happen, and we did it to ourselves. We did it to ourselves. Alabama did it to themselves. I wanted to say it 3 times in a row so everybody understands. But I will say this, that if you're a college football fan, and I know you're enjoying Alabama's being left out, and so that's cool. Enjoy that. Do you really want SMU in this thing? You really want SMU here over South Carolina? Over Missouri, over Ole Miss, over Miami? That's who you want representing this thing?
South Carolina beat that Clemson team just 8 days ago.
And somebody keeps saying, you could just win during the season. We know this. Why? Why can't y'all just listen to what we're saying? We don't think Alabama should have gotten a 1 seed or a 2 seed or a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. We said Alabama would be an 11 or 12 seed if they're lucky. And they did screw themselves 100%. It sucked. Look, I handled the Oklahoma and Vandy losses much worse than this. But I handled those losses on I'm worried about Alabama mindset. I'm worried about college football mindset by getting SMU in. It just so happens we pull for Alabama. SMU getting in sends the message, we don't care who you play. So now it's going to be a worse product for all of us. That's what I'm saying. So if you don't care who you play, Alabama's going to play fewer fun games. So is Ohio State. So is Michigan. So is Auburn. So is LSU. And that's not what we want.
I'm not sure what the world. I don't think the world is going to want the SEC and the Big Ten doing their own thing while all the other leagues have to do something else. And then you'll have an AP poll again, voting at the end, trying to compare leagues where the teams don't play each other at all about who's the national champion. And that's going to be a big mess for people too. And I think that might be the end result of what happens today with only 3 SEC teams in. You can count Notre Dame as an ACC team, considering they are in the ACC in every league except football, and they have that scheduling agreement with the ACC. So it's really like 3 ACC teams, 3 SEC teams.
And let me say this, Justin Clayton, a friend of mine, good dude, big Auburn fans. Don't mind him being here. I understand you absorb the tears. I get it. But he says, this is great for the little man of college football. It could help the overall product. No, it's going to hurt the product. And I'll tell you why. Okay? Because the big boys aren't going to let this stand. They're either going to go do their own thing, and then the SMUs, et cetera. Now, SMU may not count because SMU's got plenty of money. They will get there eventually. But some of these smaller schools are going to be totally left out. It's going to hurt that product. You've got to quit looking short-term and look long-term. I'm telling you, this is a bad precedent.
When the SEC and Big Ten pick up their ball and go home and they just do their own thing, and the SEC and Big Ten, be real interesting to see which one of those leagues Notre Dame joins. I don't think Notre Dame wants to be out of that. So I guess Notre Dame would join the SEC and Big Ten before they would be lumped into the leftovers of college football and play in the tournament with the ACC and the Big 12 and the group of 5 schools. So that'll be interesting.
All right. All that's true, and I need to go to another break. Let's talk a little FanDuel because I love it. NFL's going on right now. I've just been moaning and complaining all through the NFL kickoff here. Get ready to tackle NFL action with a FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get 150 bonus bets, 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on TV all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Okay, so have they announced? I'm curious now. Have they announced when these games will be?
I've not seen that because since we've been on the air, but I haven't seen it yet. But maybe so.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. Again, I'm fired up about, as a college football fan, looking forward to Tennessee versus Ohio State. I'm looking forward to seeing what I think are mismatches. Are they going to be mismatches? Will Penn State easily handle SMU? Will Texas easily handle Clemson? That'll be really interesting to think. I think they should. I think they probably will, but it's football. So anyone out there that thinks they know exactly what's going to happen, I encourage you to go to Vegas and make your bet and collect your free money. No one knows exactly what will happen. If you do, get on that plane to Vegas because they got free money waiting for you if you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, well, who's your favorite? I mean, it's kind of hard to not think it's Oregon right now, right?
I think we're going to find out about the Carson Beck injury today. I would say Georgia if Carson Beck is healthy, but I don't believe he. I'm guessing that MRI is going to be bad news for Georgia today. And who thought we'd have a playoff with Gunnar Stockton being Georgia's quarterback going forward? I'm going to say Texas over Oregon. But close. And I would pick Georgia to win the whole thing if Carson Beck was healthy.
Oh, man, Carson looked pretty rough yesterday, bro.
Yeah, in that one game. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying he hasn't looked rough all year. I just still think Georgia's the best team, and Carson Beck gives him a better chance to win than Gunnar Stockton. But I'm interested to see what Gunner's got. I mean, Gunner did down in the second half help defeat Texas, and he was a highly recruited kid. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's not super young. That's interesting. But I tend to think it'll be Texas or Georgia, maybe Oregon. I would also watch the Tennessee-Ohio State winner as having a good chance to advance. So it'll be, college football is always great. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to bowl games more than people think. Hey, and pay attention to this, folks. Next Saturday, for the first time I can ever remember, after the Heisman ceremony, bowl season starts. First bowl after the Heisman ceremony. I can't remember that happening in the past, but it's going to be the game from Montgomery, the South Alabama Jaguars versus Western Michigan, coached by former Alabama player Lance Taylor. that'll be the first bowl game after the Heisman ceremony next Saturday.
Yep. That'll be kind of fun. And, I know everybody watching this thinks we're just crying a river and totally upset. I'm fine. Look, I bet you I'd be willing to bet everybody that's on this list, Drunk Vigo, you're number one, that I've been to a lot more championships games than you, like both in spirit and in person, like just this last 10 years. So I've had my fun, and I love Alabama regardless. I'm just saying I was so excited when Alabama scheduled Notre Dame and Ohio State and Wisconsin and Florida State and West Virginia and Boston College and all these teams. And now I'm sort of like, I don't give two rips if we play them. Why in the world? And AJS is living in the past. You mean the past like last year when we went to the Rose Bowl? I guess if you're talking about yesterday, you're living in the past. So anyway, it's just funny stuff that we're not going anywhere. Alabama will be right in the mix again next year. I
was more upset after losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma than I'm upset
100 times. I was 100 times more upset. And people keep saying, you lost 3 games. We get it. We get this was our fault. Nobody's begging for a handout. Well, I take that back. There were going to be handouts because the way this system is set up. So I was hoping we would have gotten one of those handouts. The SMU got a handout. That's 100% a handout. Say what you want to. All the things you're mad about Alabama being mad about not getting, SMU got. They don't deserve this. They didn't earn it. Neither did South Carolina. No offense, South Carolina. I'm pro South Carolina. Missouri, Ole Miss, Miami. They didn't earn it. We were all sitting there hoping, please, please, can we have some porridge? That's what we were doing. That's my English accent, by the way. I know it sucks.
Sure. That was rough.
I'm from Southern England. What do you want me to do? He said, don't label the video a snub then. I'll label my video what I want to. Hot Danger. That's your name, Hot Danger. Sounds like the worst stripper name in history. Welcome to the stage, Hot Danger. And she's got to be off the stage by 3:15 because it's near the airport.
Is that one of the superheroes in The Boys?
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We have just gone off the rails as per usual. But until then, roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.